Hey, welcome back to Rust Hoarder Garage and the next installment of the Nova LS swap, T56 coming up swap, and experiments. We're going to get into today what is going to make or break where that engine is sitting right now, because I really like where it's sitting right now. But if the headers don't fit, that's not going to work. And in a minute, you're going to see why this video had to be separated from the others so it didn't run so long. I don't know how long this is going to take, but when you see what I have here, you'll understand. And product placement, I need a sponsor. And again, when you see what I have here, you'll understand why I need a sponsor. And why I need coffee to get through this, because this is going to be a lot. So, if you didn't pay attention to anything we've done so far, the the mock-up engine is sitting on 350 Nova short and narrow frame stands with 350 engine mounts and a set of Amazon plates. The stock Turbo 350 crossmember is bolted to the empty Turbo 350 case just to locate the engine right now. Driveline angle is good and the engine is sitting where it will work. I have clearance to all the heaters, the heater boxes, whether AC or non-AC. I have not checked the power brake booster yet, but it's looking pretty good just based on what I'm looking at here. But again, the exhaust is the main thing here. If the exhaust works, we're going to be in good shape. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to go to plan B. And plan B would be either big block frame stands, which I have on hand, which will move the engine up and over to the passenger side, or make my own stuff, which is personally, or I should say, completely possible. But first, we'll talk about headers. Why am I even using headers? Well, the only reason I'm putting long tubes on this is because I'm putting a 6-liter in it with a cam, which of course is going to bring the power band up higher, and there's no reason running stock manifolds with something like that. I mean, you need, if you're bothering to put a cam in an engine, it means you want the power, you're going to need headers. You're also going to want long tube headers and not mid-length or shorties, because from everything I've seen in dyno tests, they really don't do anything for power over a stock manifold. So if you're running a stock 5.3 or a stock 6-liter or something in your Nova, I would not even bother with long tubes unless you really want them and they fit easily. But I don't know. What I've got here, we're going to find out, because not only do I have 4 sets of long tube headers here, I have 2 sets of I'll say shorty type headers, and I have a set of aftermarket cast iron exhaust manifolds that you frequently find on eBay. So we can fit them all and see how it works. Now, we really only need to fit the driver's side. If the driver's side fits, there's usually no issue on the passenger side. But we can go through them all and see exactly what works. And for those of you, the old school guys who hate headers, or people who generally detest headers in the first place, you probably had bad experiences with them. I get it, but I will say that these eBay headers are better quality than the stuff we were buying in the 80s and the 90s, mainly because of the flange thickness. A big issue with headers, of course, is leaks. And once they're in, if you have a leak, you immediately blow the gasket and you got to deal with that mess. These things, the flanges are so thick, I have not had a leak. None of them. Zero. And I use cheap stainless studs and serrated nuts. Nothing special, only because I don't want to have to risk screwing the threads up in the blocks. So I just use stainless studs, and I have had no leaks, no issues. Heat cycles up and down, of course, driving all over, no leaks. They work really, really good, as long as they fit. So let's see what we got, and then we'll get started. Well, the back of the 56 Chevy truck is being used as a truck, as it should be. So where do we even start? I could probably fit up the mid-length or the shorty headers really fast, so we could do that first, just for those guys who don't want to run long tubes. For as far as stock exhaust manifolds, I don't think truck would work, but I could slap one on or try to slap one on and see if it would work. Maybe it would. I do not have any LS1 exhaust manifolds in my hand. I have them back here somewhere bolted to engines, but they're not in my hand, so I can't try those out, unfortunately. But myself, most of the time, I'm not going to run a cast iron manifold anyway, unless it's a truck manifold and it just bolts up and it's good to go. I like the shorty headers when they can be used, just because they've worked so great for me. So yeah, let's do that. We'll start with the shorty headers, and those are going to be these first two boxes here. All right, so for the shorty headers, there's two main styles I see on eBay, and I buy those to have in stock because they've worked for me. It's not everything that's available on eBay. I think there are other designs as well, but these are common. The first set, I don't know if these are marketed as S10 headers, but they're this design, and this is the passenger side, and the driver's side is the same design. And I will try to get a picture of the auction. I think I used these. What did I use these on? I may not have used these yet on anything. I used a different design on the truck here. I may not have put these on anything yet. Can't remember. But anyway, we'll fit them up. You know, the biggest thing with these headers is, even if they fit, sometimes you're going to have to dimple the tubes for spark plug access. So we can take a look at that when we have them bolted up. But for now, let's start with these. All right, just so we have a good record, because I want to try to do this so it has enough detail that you can make your own decisions. This is the first set we're going to try. Again, these are eBay headers commonly found. The only thing I do with these is anything that has this old style flange, I cut this right off, and I end up welding an extension onto it where I'll put the O2 bung for the O2 sensor, and then use a clamp-on piece of tubing down under the car and get rid of these, because this is a good source for leaks right here. Plus, a lot of times this is right in the way, so it's easier to cut it off and make it a straight tube off of that, or a curved tube. All right, let's fit these up, see what it looks like. And I'm just going to try to bolt these up with a couple stock manifold bolts, as long as they fit. Let's see. Okay, so there's the first header, first shorty header. Let me get a second here. All right, so there's the first shorty header. Clears the steering box, but is really tight at the upper bolt right there. A little dinging would get it. And I think the big block mounts would get clearance. Just keeping that in the back of my mind, because I may be taking these 350 frame stands off and going with the big blocks. So that's that. I'll bolt up the other side so we can just see what that looks like. I don't expect any problems, but who knows. All right, we'll get the passenger side on here. And I don't see any issue with that. Oh, well, let's see here. Is it going to clear? Yep. I was just looking at the control arm. Just checking control arm clearance. Looks good. Okay. Here we go. That fits perfectly. No issues. Clears the block, clears the transmission. It's real tight at the block, and I'll show you that. But that's another reason why I cut these flanges off these headers. There's a look from the top. No issues at all. I'm not talking about spark plug access. You may have to ding a tube here and there. That's just the way it is. But This is why I cut these off and go with a welded on extension, because it's right at the block. Get you under here. I can. That extension is like right at the block. So it's tight. So I like to cut those flanges right off and just weld a tube off there, getting down here, and then have the junction at the bottom. So this first set is definitely usable for an LS swap and a Nova. You do maybe a little clearancing down there at that bolt for the steering box, but that's no big deal. It wouldn't be much. You've got enough room here around the rag joint and such. And again, after this is all done, I may put the big block mounts in and try these all over again. If the long tubes don't fit, we will definitely be doing that. But let's see what's next. Okay, the next set of headers is going to be the set that I actually used on this truck. They were the only headers that would work, and they worked fantastically. They look like they were made to fit it. Now, this is where I would say the other set was symmetrical. You know, both header was pretty much the same design. This set is not. Driver's side is kind of a center dump. And the passenger side is a shorty with this crazy curve around tube. So this set is really easy to identify on eBay because all you do is look for this wacky tube. So let's see if these will fit the Nova. And again, same deal with these headers. I cut these flanges off. I'll weld a 90-degree off the bottom of this for the O2 bung to go and to make a good solid connection underneath, because anybody old school, this is one of the main reasons we hated headers, was this type of flange connection, because they always end up leaking eventually. So let's see, will this style even fit? The answer is yes. And it looks like they fit really good. Really good. Let's see. I'll get this bolted up. This may be the best yet. And I said, this is the header set I used on the 56 truck. And they're working great. Wow. Can't complain about that. All right, so here's a look at this. I like this a lot, a whole lot. This clears everything with lots of room. Plenty of room around the steering box. No issues whatsoever. Clears the block. You can dump, you said put a 90 off of that pipe there and curve right to the back. That is really, really good. Let me bolt up the passenger side. We'll see what that looks like. All right, we'll get this one bolted up. And I don't expect any problems with this, other than, like I said, I'll cut the flanges off of them and make them easier to connect to without hitting anything. Oh yeah, that's really good. I like it a lot. Look at all that clearance everywhere. Like I said, I would cut the flange off, weld a down pipe off of that, where you're going to put your O2 sensor anyway. But other than that, I think I had to dimple. I put a ding in this pipe here for this spark plug axis, or maybe it was this one. But it wasn't a whole lot. If you look at, and no, I'm not just plugging the channel, but if you go back and find my exhaust video on the 1956 Chevy pickup, you'll see this where I ding this header. I'm pretty sure this is the, I know I used that on the driver's side. Well, heck, we got the truck right here. Let's take a look. Because I can't remember if I mixed and matched. Let's see. There's that driver's side header. And you can see how I welded a dump off the bottom. I cut the flange off and welded a dump on it, and I put my O2 sensor there. And these plug wires, I go over those in the video series. They're ceramic boot, and you can see there's no issue on this side. What did I do over here? Yep, I used this. I used that set. So there you can see that crazy curve. And this one right here, I heated that up and knocked that down a little bit just to get a little bit of clearance. Other than that, no issues, and they're working great. So this is yet another example where this would be my go-to. If you're doing a stock engine and you just want headers, you don't want to use manifolds, and you're doing what I'm doing here with this set of engine mounts, this is absolutely what I would install. There's no performance gain over a stock manifold, but they certainly look much cleaner and they fit excellent. All right, lastly, in the shorty type department, we have these. These are aftermarket heavy cast iron exhaust manifolds. Again, frequently found on eBay, which is where I got them. Pretty traditional design, rear dump. Much heavier than the headers, that's for sure. But let's see what they look like. All right, let's see if these are an option. They are not. At least not in this application, not like this. The engine is too low and they will not clear the steering box. Here you can see the problem. I'm pretty much at the angle that they're going to be against the head, and we're crashing into the steering box. So even though this thing has to come down an inch, that's not going to clear. Not going to make it. So if you're doing the LS swap and the Nova with these mounts, don't bother buying these. They're not going to work. All right, now we're going to start getting into the long tubes. I have two different sets that, and again, I haven't really opened these boxes. I cut them open just to make sure this is what was in the box, but I haven't taken them out and laid them down. I have two different sets that I bought off of eBay that are very similar. The big difference was the location of these, I'll call it the number 2 cylinder on the driver's side, the second cylinder back, which would be number 3. That tube, the way it crosses over, on one set of the headers, it went in front of cylinder number 5, and on another one, it went behind cylinder number 5. So they're both listed to work for, they called it 64 to 72. You know how that works, right? So they were very close but different. So I want to see if that makes a difference. The other two sets of headers are very similar in design, but they had different part numbers. I don't know if that's just because they're different vendors. They could be the exact same header times 2. Airplane. So I'm not sure if we only have 3 sets of headers here or 4, but we're going to figure it out shortly. They all have different part numbers. So first I'll start off with, maybe I should open up the 2 that look really similar and make sure that they are in fact different and it wasn't just bait and switch on eBay or they had a wrong picture shown. So let's see what those look like. All right, let's see what we got here. And I want to keep these sets separate. So this set here, this is the passenger side tube. I want to look at the driver's side tube. And these look like, you know, traditional small block headers. These are pretty big primaries. I have to measure them. They might be 1 3/4, but this header, this is the driver's side. Notice how number 3 pipe goes behind 1 and 5. It goes behind these 2 pipes. Now I think the other one, it crosses in front of it. And this is the driver's side. And let's see. This one, number 3, comes down here with number 1, and it's in front of number 5. So let's lay them on the floor, on the ground, and show you what they look like on the floor. Let's compare them. All right, there's a look at the 2 sets of headers, and already I see one issue that may come into play here. Look how much lower that set on the right is. That is probably better for a truck than a passenger car, and we'll verify, but this looks much more like the correct header to fit the Nova. And that one, the shorter one, is part number MT001099, and the real longer, I'll say longer header, is the MT001096. So that is the difference there. Let's see if either of them fit. And I will make an attempt to put this in through, or say from the top. Most of the time that does not work. I remember me and my buddy Rich, if he'll remember if he sees this video, putting big block headers in his 72 Nova and digging a hole in the yard to be able to put the collector down in the ground low enough that we could fit the header up from underneath. This is not going to make it from the top. This is the MT001099. This is the header that I think will fit the best. I'm going to raise the car in the air and we'll see what we can do here. Okay, I put the car in the air. This header fit right up in here. No problem. Now we're going to see if it fits. Let's see. Bolt started. Are we going to clear? Angle. I think we're hitting the steering box. Maybe not. Or we will hit the steering box. I think if I get the header bolted up tight. The one tube is just not going to work. All right, hang on here. I could be wrong. I may be hitting this power steering tab and not the steering box. Let me get that removed. Just take that bracket off, put the bolt back in, and see what that looks like. All right, I've got that removed, and it looks like we're talking the slightest of tube dimples, and these will work. I think with the big block frame stands, these would work as is. I'll show you what it looks like. Everything looks excellent except right here. And I am bolted up to the head. So that's it. There'd be a little dimple there. But that small amount, as I said, we're gonna do all these headers with the small block frame stands. And I may try this, take it back apart, put the big block frame stands on there, and see how these work. We already know what the deal is with the short tube headers. They're going to work no matter what I use. But the long tubes, maybe we'll switch to the big block headers. I don't know, or rather big block frame stands. Let me put the passenger side on, see what that looks like. I don't expect big issues with the passenger side, and it just clears. So here's the deal. This is what we'll have to consider. Let me get this bolted up. And let's see what this looks like. Okay, now take a look at this. All right, here's the passenger side. Looks fantastic, clearance everywhere. This is your only tight spot, and there is a 1/4 inch of clearance. I would probably shave that a little bit anyway, but here's the deal. If I were to switch to big block frame stands, it's going to move the engine over in this direction. That would solve this slight interference here, but it would also create interference there. So 6 of one, half dozen of another. I think I would use these with the small block frame stands. Now, let's take a look underneath and see what we're looking for clearances. That is fantastic. These headers are up above the subframe. So no issues with running a nice exhaust and having everything clear. I like those a lot. So again, that is part number MT001099. And of course, those were off eBay. Now, let's bolt up these and see what the differences are. All right, next set. These are the MT001096. I had to raise the car in the air, of course, and I put them in from underneath. But let's see what we're looking at here. I'd say no go. I'm already at a problem. The only way these are going to fit is if the engine is further forward to try to put the steering box between the tubes. These are nice headers, they're just not going to work for this chassis. So far, these will not work, but the 00109s so far are my favorite set of long tubes. I'll keep these around. They're just not going in anything with the rear steer setup. They'd probably work fine for like a 70 to 81 Camaro, where the steering box is up front, as long as they're not too low to the ground. And I can't really test that because I don't know where the engine would be relative to the subframe in a second gen, so I don't want to give out false information. But these are not going to work for the Nova. All right, so the last two sets of long tubes that I have here, these are the ones where I'm not sure if I have two sets of the same. I've got to open them up and see what's what, because the pictures were similar but different part numbers. And these are a very different design than those others, at least on the driver's side. So let's see here. That's the passenger side header. Here's the driver's side header. Now, this one, notice the design on this one. Instead of number 3 coming down, it comes way over here. So you've got this big opening here. So I'm hoping this is where the steering box would live. Now, the only question is this exactly the same as this other set I have here? Because I'm pretty sure they're different part numbers, but I don't know if they are the same header. Let's see, because I know this is also a similar design. Let's just set it down and take a look. Look pretty much the same to me. I'd say I've got two of the same here, which is great if they work, because why do I have all these different headers and why do I not care about buying them? Well, if you haven't figured out by now, I have a lot of projects around and I build a lot of stuff, so I don't care about having a set of headers on the shelf, especially if I know they'll fit something. So, all right, looks like we only have one set left to test. Let's bolt one up and see what it looks like. All right, well, we have run into the first difference for this header set versus everything else, and that is the fact that they're not going in with the engine bolted in place. Can't get them in from underneath, can't get them in from up top. So I'm going to unbolt the driver's side through bolt and lift the engine up, get the driver's side in the air, and see if that means it'll go in from the top or from the bottom, or how it's going in, because it's going in one way or another. I'll try to get you in here while I'm raising this thing up. I'm going to try to get it in from the top, since I've got to move the engine anyway. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Okay. Now I'm gonna let the engine down a little bit. Where's my helper? I don't have one. Let's see, should I tie this up with something? Can I get a bolt in it? What are we looking at here? Don't think I'm gonna get a bolt in it. All right, I'm going to let it down just a little bit. Try not to catch it. Come on down. It's coming down slow. Well, I have a problem right now. Not a problem for me, but might be a problem for you. Let's let this come down to see what I'm looking at here. Maybe it'll just clear, maybe not. No, I don't think so. Okay. Is the engine down all the way? Let's see. All right, all the weight's off the engine. Here's the issue. All right, may or may not be a problem. This guy here for the column shifter. The tube bashes right into it, and it just won't make it. Now, I already noticed that this steering column has no ignition switch in it, and it's a nothing special column shift steering column. It could be broken in there. I'm going to whack that with a hammer, get it out of the way for a minute, because I want to see how these fit. So this is not a problem for me because I'm running a stick. But if you're running an automatic, you may be switching to a aftermarket shifter. All right, they fit now. Let me get the bolts in, and we'll see how these look. And hopefully these work, because I've got two sets of them now. Right there. All right, I'm gonna get a gear wrench for that to bolt that up. Hang on just a second. Get this bolted up. And I said I had two different part numbers I thought on the boxes, even though they were the same headers. But you can tell this design just by looking at them. And of course, the best thing about all these headers is they were all under $200 a set, which is pretty incredible. The other thing that's incredible is this looks even better than the other set that I liked. All right, check this out. You want clearance? You got clearance. Holy smokes. Nothing anywhere near the steering box. I think these are 1 3/4 tubes. These things are big. Let me get a tape measure here. Holy smokes. Yeah. These are 1 3/4 OD primaries. Wow. That is really nice. And I would just cut this off if I'm going to use this steering column, because I'm going 6-speed. And that is worth the grief of getting an aftermarket shifter. Because you could do that, or what I could even do, if you bent this straight and just brought it back here, there's plenty of room. You could adjust the linkage to work with the column shifter. I could make that work. Guarantee it. Yep, it could happen. Just not as factory. But who cares? That's nice. Let's put the passenger side on and see what that looks like. Let's see here. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, these I think are going to be my choice for this kind of build. Yep. Wow. Yeah, take a look at this. Really nice. Look at the clearance to the control arm. Look at the clearance everywhere. Don't even have to cut the ears off the transmission case. And it looks like the clearance underneath, let's see if these are just as high off the ground, look at all that room, as the others that I liked. Let's see. They're not as high. They are below the subframe, but still not horrible. Not horrible at all. About half the tube is below. So you could run, curve the tube up a little bit and tuck it up a little higher, but not bad at all. All right, final look at this set. I like these a lot. Glad I got 2 sets of these. They're going to work good. So those headers, there's a couple different part numbers. I mean, this just has V72 on it. This one's 105, 199. Same set of headers, but real easy to identify on eBay because of this big tube that shoots over the top. Now, one thing I have not looked at is spark plug clearance. Will that pipe cause you problems? You probably need a 90-degree boot on this one and this one. So maybe, yeah, you may need to do something with that, or maybe straight wires out and around the tube up to the coil packs. Let's grab a set of coils here. This side, I don't think will be any. Oh, this is the other side of coils, so I can't do that. Let's see. This is gonna. What are we doing here? There we go. That's gonna be like that. So, yeah, you will have to look into what kind of plug wires to use if you use these. But, you know, every set of headers, that's kind of the way it goes. You have to see what works. These look pretty easy. These almost look like the truck wires would work. They're straight shot out. But not this side. One last thing I want to look at, since I didn't really pay attention to it before, is I'm going to put the, these are the 1099s back on, and I want to see what the spark plug access looks like for these. Now, since I have the engine in the air, I didn't have to lift the car, so. Looks like lifting the engine will always be the easier way to get a header in. Let's see. I gotta lower this down some now, though. Let's see. A little bit. What are we hitting? Hitting the floor. These are the headers that tucked up the most of all of them. So let this down right onto the mount, just like that. Let's see what we got here. Because I want to see if this had better spark plug access. I really like that other set, but this set was really good too. So let's just get a look at it. Okay, this is a set that just needs a little bit of a dimple around the steering box. But the mount goes, the bolt goes through the mount, okay. So that's all right. Steering, let's see here. Now this has much better spark plug access. Let me show you that. All right, yeah, this is a set that needs that little dimple there, but the spark plug access is probably better than that other set of headers. But that's not a deal breaker for me. It's just a matter of what you want to do. You may have to mix and match some spark plug wires for that other set, maybe buy 2 different sets and use some from one, because it looks like different type boots would work best, like a mix, where this one, maybe the same kind of boot would work on all of them. This looks like the same ceramic boots wires that I have on the truck would work with these headers. So again, 6 of one, half dozen another. Nothing is 100% perfect, but you do have options. All right, all the headers are put away, but one thing I wanted to say is everything I've done here should be exactly the same for 67 to 69 Camaro. I'm going to say 68 to 72 Nova, maybe 73 Ford. A lot of these headers have quite a bit of clearance around the engine mount area, but I don't have a set to verify that with. So in my mind, I would say use this mount set for these headers, and you know they're going to work. But yeah, this stuff will be the same for F-body. Also, that set of headers that didn't fit here, the long tubes, and I said they'd work on probably 2nd gen Camaro, they'd probably also work on Chevelle. All right, well, I guess that's going to be it for this one. I hope that was helpful. It was definitely helpful for me for now and for the future, because if I'm going to run a stock engine in first gen F body, 67, 69 Camaro or Nova, stock engine, I'm using that mid-length, shorty set of headers that had the driver's side center dump and the passenger side had that big curved tube. Those fit perfectly. They look much better than manifolds, and I can make those work. So that's going to be my choice for anything with the steering box back here like that. That really worked well. As far as long tubes go, could go either way here. The only set that didn't work was, I don't have the part number on me, but they were the ones that dropped down much lower. Review the video, you'll know which ones I'm talking about because I had the part numbers all on it. But that's the only set of long tubes that didn't work. The set with the big crossover pipe, those fit fantastic. Only issue is you may be using a couple different sets of spark plug wires to get a set that'll work correctly for you. And the other set, like I said, that I just checked here, that needs just a little ding around the steering box, there's nothing wrong with those either. Those will have real easy spark plug access, and I actually kind of like those a lot too. Bonus information, because I messed up. Did you notice that I tried every one of those sets of headers and I forgot to maybe fit my AC box up to the firewall and see if it made a difference? It does. None of those headers will work as is and with a factory AC box. The long tube headers are very close to fitting, but not quite. The number 135 tube sticks out just enough to touch the side of the AC box and keeps it from going into place completely. You'd probably have to put a notch in the AC box in that area, use fiberglass or some kind of glue repair to make that work. And it will work, but you'd have to modify that. If you do not have AC, like I think most people have, then it doesn't matter. The standard heater-only AC cover is fine. It's just because that AC box comes out so far, it gets into the tube. Now, the long tubes, you can modify the box very easily and get them to work. Those shorties, the first set that I really like that have the big curved tube on the back, that's not going to make it. The other set, the S10 type set that I said that I really don't like that much, they have a better chance of fitting, but still do not fit as is. In my opinion, best bet, and I don't have them here, if you're doing a stock LS swap and you want headers, eBay has a pair of like block hugger type headers, center dump. I think that's your best chance if you've got air conditioning and you want to keep it with a stock engine and make it work. Otherwise, use the long tubes and do a slight modification where they get into the AC box. It's really a small spot. You'll know it when you see it, but you can easily fix it. And if you do not have AC, then everything that I showed you that fit will fit. It's just because the air conditioning box comes out so far. It gets into the number 5 cylinder. Or sorry, this is the passenger side, number 6 cylinder. You see how that box is just touching there? This is the best one. So this box could be modified to clear that and you'd be good to go. Just wanted to add that in here because it was not something I thought of initially, and just in case somebody does have AC like me. If you've got like a vintage air system that's all in one under the dash, not even an issue. You don't have to worry about it at all. In my case, I do, but I don't have to worry about it. I am going to be modifying that AC case in the first place, and I'll show you that during the build, so I can change its dimensions slightly to whatever I need to clear long tubes, because I will be running long tube headers. I just don't know what set yet, but that's all. Video continues. Thank you for watching. So I don't know what set I'm going to use on this, but the bottom line is, after doing all of that, those are the motor mounts, in my opinion, to use. I would not use the big block mounts. I would use the 350 low and narrow frame stands, the 350 engine mounts, and a set of those $22 Amazon plates. They have the engine in a in my opinion, in excellent position. The only thing that's left to check is the power brake booster clearance. And if the factory 11-inch didn't fit, you can buy smaller diameters. And I may even go Hydro Boost, because I don't know how much vacuum the cam I'm using is going to make. It's, like I said, the Elgin 1840. It's pretty aggressive down low, but I've run cams with 230 at 50 thousandths on small blocks, and they made enough vacuum for power brakes, no problem. I don't think this cam has that much intake duration on it. I'd have to check, but I think it'll be fine. Regardless, I like this a lot. So that means we can move forward. So that's going to be it for exhaust. When we come back, the next piece of the puzzle will be oil pans. And just like this, I have multiple oil pans to try out. So it'll be more learning and more information for you when you go to do your swap. So that'll be on the next one. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for following. And thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. We will see you on the next one. I got to put all this stuff away. Later.